Okay, well, welcome along to this another webcast for A2K Technologies. My name is Dean Petersen. I'm one of the senior civil techs for A2K. This particular webcast, as you can see, is BIM for Infrastructure. I'm looking at the Infrastructure Design Suite 2015 and how it works with InfraWorks and InfraWorks 360. We're going to have a bit of a look at the workflow that you can use to make all these things work together. So, to get everybody on the same page, let's talk a little bit about BIM and what it is. I think it's been around for a little while now, so people are getting the hang of what it actually means, but just to recap, the first part, the B, is for building, not just talking about houses and commercial buildings or structures. It's talking about construction of anything, so the act of building or constructing. The second part, the I, is the most important bit. It's about the transfer of information, in this case transfer of information all through the different products of the Infrastructure Design Suite. The data is transferable, so every time you start a new product you should be able to transfer a large amount of the information from one to the other, so you don't have to start from scratch every time that you want to start working in a different product or program. And in some cases it's transferable back again, so you can transfer it out and transfer it back. And the modelling part, of course, is the M, and that's relating mostly to 3D modelling. That's where it's the most useful. Not always, but usually. So you're talking about taking your 3D models and comparing them with other 3D models throughout the Infrastructure Design Suite. So looking a little bit at the workflow. Let me see if I can get a pen up here. Where'd my pen go? Oops. Here we go. Felt tip pen if I can get that to go. Alright, so we do have a fair bit to get through. We'll at least look at the flow from InfraWorks down to Civil 3D and across to NavisWorks, and some of the process involved in there. Also from Civil 3D, of course, there's also processes that allow you to loop back and put that information back into InfraWorks. We will also possibly, if we get the NavisWorks stuff done in a reasonable amount of time, we can then look at the transfer from Civil 3D to 3ds Max as well. All of this stuff, to get through it all, doing a fairly high level look at how these things work, not massive amounts of detail. But we have done other webcasts in the past on the individual components of Civil 3D to NavisWorks, Civil 3D to 3ds Max, etc. So this is a bit of an overview. Don't forget though, you can also take your InfraWorks model straight into 3ds as FBX files, and similarly 3ds models can be taken out and thrown into InfraWorks as FBX as well as other types, OBJ and what's the other one? Oh, Collada file, DAE files can do that. You've also got Revit in the Infrastructure Design Suite sitting off to the side here. Civil 3D to Revit you can do with the Bridge Modeler, which we've done in previous webcasts, and also Revit can come back into Civil 3D. In fact, in what they call a building site, and there's a little function for that. It's not used very often, it's not needed very often, but it is possible. And of course the Revit models can go into InfraWorks quite nicely there. And it's done a lot as well. So this is all the sort of interoperability of the BIM flow, if you like, within the infrastructure design suite. So let's go and have a look at the process. We'll start off with the InfraWorks, start of the process usually, which is what InfraWorks is really designed for. When you've got no other information, you just need to sit down and start sketching out what the project needs to be. So let me just click on this one here. I've just got to start model in there. We'll get that open. Interestingly, this one for locally where I live, there's now the model builder function as a preview function in InfraWorks 360, which allows you to go and anywhere in the world you can grab a surface, a aerial photograph similar to what you would get in Google Earth. It comes from different data, but this also has like roads. Some major buildings will have outlines already put in there and be converted into buildings. Very interesting if you want to go and have a look at that. It does a really pretty good job to give you all your starting data, and then off you go. Okay, so we're looking at here, and we'll talk a little bit about the difference between the InfraWorks you get in the suite and this, which is InfraWorks 360. 360 being the version that you pay for on a subscription basis, so it's a rental, if you like to think of it that way. You pay an amount per year, but it has all the collaboration tools, it has the road design tools and other bits and pieces being built into it. The standard version that you get in the infrastructure design suite doesn't have those, but it does have the modeling capabilities. So let me just open this up and bring in some more data. And you can see there's an aerial photograph in the back there. If I give it a rotate, you can see it's dead flat. I just put that in to begin with because it does take a little while to actually generate that, which I'm just shortcutting it here, but that's all that we've done in this particular model. So the first thing we need to do is bring in some ground data. Now you could use that that model builder if you don't have any, or in this case we've actually got a land XML. So this particular land XML happens to be a design one, but if you've just got like GIS contour data or something like that, that's probably what you're going to have in most circumstances in a at the beginning of your design. Where is the folder gone? Here we go. But in this case, it's actually an XML with a decent amount of triangles, and it's actually for a design surface. So if you've got a design surface and you've done the survey already, you can bring it straight in. Doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a rough surface in InfraWorks. And we'll read it in. Now, again, we're not going to spend a lot of time on how you do these things in InfraWorks. We have done that in previous webcasts, but let me go. What you do need to do once you bring it in, you need to go and configure it. So let me go and configure this. And in a second it'll come up. We do have a number of other programs running in the background here, so it may take, we'll see how we go. If it's going too slow, we'll turn it off. So what it's needing to know, it knows it's terrain. It really just wants a coordinate system. So at the moment, the other coordinate systems aren't there. So let's go find the correct one. In this case, this one's a New Zealand coordinate system, which is going to be the Bay 2000. So let's go and have a look for New Zealand down this list. Here it is. Australia, of course, you're at the top of the list. It makes it a lot easier, and it's going to be the Bay of Plenty 2000. All right, we go close and refresh on that once it's done, and you'll see the aerial photograph will be projected onto it. All right, now the purpose of InfraWorks is to be able to build these things up quickly using data from various sources like GIS databases that the council or local authorities will already have and have available. So we can then, well, just to give you the example of how that works, let's go and bring in a shapefile. So it's going to be an SHP file of now we're in here. These are house footprints. Once again, like the land XML, you read that in, and we build up our house footprints, but we need to configure them first. So right click on there and go configure, and we need to tell it what it's going to be. So in this case, they're going to be buildings, and it'll ask you what it needs to configure buildings. So one of the things we want is it's always the geolocation needs to be put in there, but in fact in this case it's read that from the shapefile, which is nice. So it's already done that for us. What we do want to do though is tell it what we want these buildings to look like. So under the rule style, we'll just have single-story buildings and brick facades. So we'll grab this one and go OK. And we want a roof height, so set that to, let me see, we want 4 or 5 meters, something like that. Let's try 4, and put a roof slope on there of 30 degrees. Let's leave the roof materials as a random color, so we got random roof colors. We could put an actual material on there if we wanted to. And just run with that, close and refresh. And we should see those appear at the top of the screen. Okay, so there's our buildings coming in there. Give them a bit of a, oops, bit of a look. So your screen will be catching up there. I'll just try and zoom in and leave it in one spot. Yeah, so I got some random roof colors and some building facades there, but all these were outlines in the shapefile of the outside building footprints. Then it's put those nice roofs on and given them the well, they haven't done many random colors, but usually it's a little bit more random than that. Okay, so that's how you build up a model. But let's go and do something a little bit more interesting with it. So if you're using the 360 version of InfraWorks, you're going to have this button up here to go and actually design, review, and engineer roads. So we can say we want to draw some. They're going to be, let's do local roads, and we can choose a particular style. So let's go for this one here, shall we say, street and sidewalks with lamps. And where I want to click it on, let's start up the top here, run it down to here, and you can see it's putting a little circular curve in there. It's using some design rules in the background there, so I'm just going to put a little kink at that point and run it down to about here somewhere. Once I'm finished, I go end draw. And what you get in the InfraWorks 360 is this has those design curves being laid out according to the design rules in the background, and we can also look at the profile of it. So this little panel also comes up for each one of those. Let's just do a standard road as you would get in the standard version, just to show you the difference. So let's close that one up, bring that one out, go design. So you won't have these three little icons in the standard version. In the standard version you do it this way, click on design and then roads, and then choose. You can see the styles are very similar. Let's grab one the style, shall we say, and they'll snap together with the 360 roads just fine. But you don't get much of an option over what the radii are and things for the new roads you're making. When you do it with the standard version. Oops. Just got a tree in the middle there. That's not a problem. Same as the other ones. These are editable, so you can grab that box and move it somewhere else. To change it horizontally, if that's what you need to do. And you can also use the pick that again. The conical grips above those square boxes to change the elevation. Okay, so we're now getting elevation change in that road with a great big boom being put in underneath the road. Just let your screens catch up. Okay. But you can see they intersect fine together, each different type of road. However, if I pick this road here, we get different grips, and you can change, in this case, when you look at it on the side, that's the horizontal geometry. You can grip edit that and change the length of the vertical. And you can also go to the plan view, and if you pick it again, you can change the length of the horizontal curves as well if you want to. Also, as I was saying before, pull up the profile geometry. So let's just try that. Oops, pardon me. So from the review button, where'd the review button go? Analyze. Here we go. Review button in 360, the 360 version. You've got a profile view down the bottom that you can turn on. Which is that grey bar you can see at the bottom of the screen. And so now if I pick that road, we're going to get the actual profile, and we can then grab those IP points and say, okay, that one's not great. Let's move that more towards the center of the hill here. And drag these things around the place. And you can see it's currently using the AASHTO American design standards there. It was up on the screen a moment ago. Other design standards are coming. We've been told by Autodesk. All right. So quickly, we've got something started in InfraWorks, and we want to now transfer that to the next program. So the best way to do that is to actually, well, through the next program being Civil 3D. Let me close this thing here. So we want to make a IMX format, which is a file type being made almost specifically for InfraWorks Civil 3D. So the IMX function is here. You click the settings and utilities, you get all of these ones. You can go make an FBX, which is essentially a model export, but we want the design objects export, which is the IMX. We click on that. We're going to use, might as well take the entire model. It's not a huge one. The coordinate system we're going to want, let's go for Bay 2000 again. And it's going to put it there by default. Don't really want it there, so I'm going to put it back in that same folder for my little demonstration here. Put it in there. Let's put it as IM export. That's what it's by default, but let's go webcast. Webcast IMX. Save it in there and export it. It doesn't take too long to do. Okay. All right, so with that done, let's go and close this down and let's open up Civil 3D. Just let your screens catch up there. Cool. Okay, so Civil 3D 2015, slightly different start page than what you're used to, but if you just want to, well, the other functions do still work, they've just added some extra stuff in, so let's just go start a blank drawing. So going, there we go, that's better. Okay, let's get that fired up, it's looking good. Alright, so we now want to read in that IMX file that we exported to give us a starting point for our civil design. So if we go to the Insert tab in the ribbon and import IMX on the left, that's how it's done, and I'll just navigate to that folder, and there's our webcast IMX. Alright, so what it brings in is two surfaces, an existing ground from InfraWorks and a design ground as well. So it's the modifications made to the existing ground in the InfraWorks model. So if I pick that and have a look at the modified ground, let's just have a look in the object viewer. Give it a rotate, and then you can see it's just the area that has been changed when the road surface and other modifications were made to the InfraWorks model on top of or underneath the existing ground. That's what comes through. So those are the two surfaces, and you get that both in the 360 version and the standard version of InfraWorks. However, looking at the two roads that we've got here, this is the alignment that we drew using standard version, or standard commands for InfraWorks. And if I just select that, you can see it's made of a whole bunch of little straight line segments, essentially. So it gives you an idea of where you sketch the road in InfraWorks, but it wouldn't need to be modified or converted into a more usable Civil 3D alignment, and it has no profile associated with it, only what you can see from that design surface that was brought in, and you'd be drawing over the top of that essentially. However, in the 360 version of InfraWorks, you can see that the IP points and the horizontal curves have come through exactly the same way as we made them in InfraWorks. And if we go and make a surface profile from that, there's already a design profile in there. So let me put in the existing ground surface, add that in as well. and make a profile view. I'm not going to worry about all the styles for the profile view, I'm just going to use it for design. So let's just go create profile view and put it over to the side here. Okay, and here is our design profile that's come through, which is the one we modified slightly so that this IP coincided more with the top of the crest of that hill. But now it's a fully functional Civil 3D profile, so we can start modifying that further. So for instance, oops, pick that again. We can start using the Civil 3D tools to drag one side and keep the other side, the grade the same, and drag it back a bit and start moving it around as you would when you've sketched from Civil 3D from scratch, but this has come now from our initial first go in InfraWorks at how we wanted the design to be. I'm not going to get too carried away with it, but let's just bring that down to there, close enough. Okay, and you'd meet all your other design constraints that you need to. Let's then make a corridor out of that. So let's go and in the tool palettes there's some pre-made sub-assemblies, so I'm going to grab one of those. Basic road, curb and footpath will do. And we'll just pop it in there. I think for this exercise we might need to steepen up the cut and fill slopes a little bit. So let's try, I'm just not going to be in that command anymore. We're fairly close to the edge of the surface here for that particular road, so I'm going to pick that one and that one. Bring up the properties. Let's change it to 1 and 1.5 for cut and fill. That should give us a narrow enough corridor for our purposes for this demonstration. Cool. Alright, so let's go make a corridor out of those. Just call it corridor 1, I guess, or Dean Road. That's the design alignment we're going to use. We've got a design profile, and the assembly will be the one we've just brought in. Target surface will be our existing ground. We go OK. Alright, and I can see there's one little bit down here. We've probably got an end of this, an end of this profile to tidy up, and then the corridor will be looking all good once I rebuild it, that is, of course. Let's put it on rebuild automatic. Rebuild automatic. Okay, as I teach everybody that comes to one of my training sessions, always have a look at your object, the 3D object you've created, and the object viewer should be the first thing you do to make sure you haven't made any big mistakes. So in the object viewer, let's have a look at that one. Give it a rotate. And that's looking good. I'm happy with that. So, continue on with your civil design. You go through your whole design process, make sure it meets all the design constraints you've got to meet, and get your civil drawings produced. However, the next step, before we do that, we didn't bring the aerial photograph. So the same aerial photograph we used in InfraWorks, we can use in here as well. For those who don't know it, there's a map insert command. And we can just read the same exactly the same image that we were looking at before. If I can just find the right folder, here it is, in InfraWorks. Map by insert being a map command, it will Sorry, I think I've missed that. Let me just do that again. Just detach that one again. I think I accidentally moved it. Let's just try that command again. Map by insert. We're going to use the one from the BIM folder. Where'd you go? Here we go. Here we go, BIM webcast folder, and the one we want is the JGW. It's actually JPEG, but it has, JPEG there. The JGW is a world file that places it in the right location. So if you do that, the map insert command should put it in the correct spot. Let's just check that. It's just going a little slow because I've got NavisWorks and a few other things running in the background, as well as this webcast program. So just give it a second. There we go, that's looking better. So let's use that world file and place it in the right place. In fact, the world file was used also in InfraWorks to place it in the right place. So if you've got a geo-referenced image, you're all good. So all we need to do is select it in the display order, send it to the back. There we go. Okay, so we can use that file again, not a problem. What we do want to do is go and split this up a little bit. We're going to look at NavisWorks in a moment, which is, for those who haven't seen NavisWorks before, where you can combine our particular project for this road along with other works on site. I happen to know that there's, in this NavisWorks that we're going to have a look at, there's another contractor building this road through here, which is perhaps a little strange that you've got two people building roads at the same time, but I'm sure it happens. Let's go and just make a little change to this corridor. So pick my corridor, and I'm just going to put a couple of regions in around where this intersection will occur. Now normally going through and design a full intersection in here, but I'm not doing that at this stage, just for the example. So I'm just going to split a little region in here and get it to go that way, just as for this demo. So we're going to split that region, and we're going to make a split right there, and we'll then split this region and we'll make another split on the other side of the road. And say we can timeline or coordinate those three areas of that particular corridor in order to work in with this other contractor. So what we want to export out of here, there's actually a couple of things. Let's do the corridor first. So let me pick my corridor. And when you pick your corridor, this was a tool in the subscription download before, but now it's up in the ribbon in 2015, extract corridor solids. So if we click on that, it takes the corridor itself, which is a series of basically strings, line segments, and makes AutoCAD, pardon me, solids out of it. This is what NavisWorks most easily works with, and you can use it for timelining, which we're going to do, for clash detection, all sorts of things if you've got nice solid objects. So that's what we're doing. So there's our road. We want to add all baselines and regions of that particular road, and it fills up that particular dialog box. And let me just make my toolbar a bit bigger here. Cool. All right. We don't need this, by the way, anymore, so we'll get rid of that. Okay. So what we want to do is usually change the layer name template a little bit in here for what's being used by default. It's not normally that helpful. So let's go and just change that for the whole lot. So we click on this icon at the top on the right, and I'd like to have each of these little solids it's going to make for me. And that's why I split the regions. It makes them by region. Let's have the region name as the first part of the name for the layer. So we'll insert that there instead of the subassembly name. And then we'll have, I think, shape codes rather than the subassembly name, and add that in afterwards. So it's going to be the region, then the shape code, and increment as needed. Go OK. Okay. Now what you can also do is change the colors particular objects appear in here. It's a bit, I find it a bit annoying to try and do it in this list, so I actually do it in the next step. So we go next. The next step is to create a new drawing. So I'm going to tell it to add to a new drawing, and I'm going to save that in my little data set. No, not that one. So we'll call it webcast. Solid. DWG. Cool. And we'll have it as AutoCAD 3D Solids, and click the Create Solids button. So this is all standard in Civil 3D these days, the ability to do that. Okay, once it's finished, shouldn't take long. There we go, that's done already. There's one more thing we want to do. We want a ground surface that includes the datum surface of that corridor. So when we see it in NavisWorks, we're going to see our corridor on top of the ground surface as it's being built. So I want to incorporate this corridor into the surface that's being used in the NavisWorks drawings with NavisWorks files. So in order to do that, we'll first of all make a datum surface out of the corridor. I'm sure you all know how to do this by now. Quick refresher for those who haven't seen it for a while. Pick your corridor, go up in the ribbon corridor surfaces. The datum surface being the surface you need to build down to or build up to before you're starting to lay the corridor pavement materials on top of. So I'll call it DIN road datum. And we'll have it on a, let's have it on a triangulated display, I suppose. Triangles magenta. And we're going to add it into the links called datum and add those in. And we also have an overhang correction and tell it to favour the bottom links. Again, we've cast some of these before in more detail, and put a corridor extends outer boundary for a boundary on it. And go OK, and make sure it looks all right. Okay, so there's my magenta triangles. It's nicely trimmed back, so I'm happy with that. I'm going to bring in another surface here, which is the surface that's actually being used. It's been modified already. It's not the natural ground surface, the one that's being used in NavisWorks. When we get there in a moment, you'll see why. I'm going to go and import that. It's actually land XML I have for it. Construction 3. So it's a construction surface that was already been supplied by the other contractor. And I'm just going to bring in that one surface. Go OK. And we can add our own design into it. So finally I combine the two together. Construction 3 and our datum. So make a new surface. I'm going to call it construction 4. And we'll give it a style of, let's say, triangulation cyan, so we can see that it's all good. And of course we'll check it in the object viewer once we get it made. So into that we then need to paste the other two surfaces. So we'll paste in first of all. The construction 3 surface, and we'll see those cyan triangles appear as soon as that happens. And then paste over that our Dean Road datum. There we go, and that's done. Of course, check it in the object viewer. It's the first thing you want to do. To make sure it's right before we go any further. Good. So, as you can see, there's our surface on the left. Datum surface for our roadway put in there, but there's also another surface, a datum surface for the roadway the other contractor's doing off to the side. And there's other details in there as well, because that's what's being used in NavisWorks. So we're going to use that in just a moment. So what we're going to do from this drawing is export to NavisWorks. Now there is a command, I don't think it's in the output tab yet. No. A command called NWC out. It's going to make an NWC file for NavisWorks. I'm going to put it in that same folder on my desktop, this one. And I'm going to, you can see there's other ones from Revit being used. You'll see those in a moment in the drawing. I'm going to call it webcast NWC. and we'll save it in there. We'll also do the same thing. Whoops, I know what I've forgotten to do. What you do need to check is the units of the drawing before you do that. So let me just check that. Oops, we're going. I think it's still writing. Give it a second. There we go. Units. They want to be in the correct units for NavisWorks, and it's on unit list. It actually needs to go into meters before you do the NWC out, so let's make sure we get that right. Okay, and now do the NWC out. I'll replace that one we did just a moment ago. Okay, what I now want to do is go and do the same thing but for our solids. So let's open our drawing called solids, corridor solids. It was in there, webcast solids DWG. Open that one up. We'll do a zoom extents when we get in here. Cool. And these are just AutoCAD solids, so we can just rotate this file. Have a bit of a look at what we've got. Oh, still loading, just give it a second. There we go. All right. So we've got 3 regions of the corridor. We just usually want to, it's very dense, interesting. Usually want to go and delete off these blue edges, which are just the batter slopes. We don't necessarily need those in NavisWorks because we have that at the surface we're going to bring through as well. So I can use select similar. Interesting, didn't grab those ones. And just delete those out of there. You can keep them if you want. Okay. What we'll also do, I think that's got most of them. Right. Oh yeah, most of them. Cool. What we can also do is colour up some of these. So at the moment they're just default green colour. I could have coloured them before, but I find it easier to actually do it in here. Pick the top surface there. And one of the regions. Just going to change my road colour here, but you can change it all up as much as you want. And that one, and that one, and right click, select similar, grab some ones on the opposite side of the road, and I'm just going to use my AutoCAD properties just to change the colours. These are just AutoCAD solids, there's nothing fancy about them. They just happen to be the same shape as the corridor. Once my AutoCAD properties come up, nice selection. Okay. That one. That one. And that one. Select similar. And so let's make those a grey colour so it looks a bit more like a road. Machine's just having go slow, give it a second. Come on, sunshine. Okay, so let me just close that one. Okay, are we working again here or not? All right. At the same time, it's got hung up on something. Okay. Okay, let me use my desktop. Start that up again. In actual fact, let's can we do that? Yeah, let's use one rather than going back and doing that again. We're running a little bit short of time now. Let's go straight into NavisWorks. I've got a couple of files already made. Exactly the same process as I showed you just then, but it's just is already coloured up. So, for those who haven't seen NavisWorks, we're talking about bringing different models all together all at the same time from different contractors, different programs. So I've got a little one started here called NavisWorks. Where are we? And back in our little BIM webcast folder, I'll bring, where is it? Webcast MWC, that's the one. Begging your pardon. It's NWD. NavisWorks, yeah, that's not what I wanted at all. In NavisWorks, That's the one that I want to bring in. In NavisWorks, you open one model at a time, but an NWD is the actual project folder. So let me change that to an NWD. And the one I'm looking for is this one. That's better. So NavisWorks has been used for many years by the architectural, structural engineering industry. And this is what it looks like. So you've got a 3D model. It's timelined against the construction schedule. You can see down the bottom of the screen there. Okay, I've got a little rabbit house in there as well. But what happens is that when you change the Simulate tab down the bottom here, there we go. It allows you to scroll through the construction schedule in a graphic way. So it's been used previously. Now this may be a little fast. We'll see how it goes for your web link, but we'll just see how it goes. So as this is scrolling through, we're getting different parts of the road being done by the other contractor being modelled up. We've got little cones showing the traffic management plan and things as it goes. For them, and slowly building up each section of the roadway. Alright, so we want to add in our model as well as this. You can also pause it in any stage and scroll through the timeline of the project. So we want to add our project into this. Get that to pause. I was just going a little slowly here with, there we go. With the webcast program going at the same time. Alright, so, and we've got the building will be put in there as well. So what we need to do is take that surface, well, no, first of all we need to append the exports we've made from Civil 3D. So we've got the NWC surface, webcast NWC we called it. We bring that in. So that's just the surface. Well, only the surface is all we want from that, but as you may be able to see, there's a whole bunch of other stuff being brought in as well. So if you can clean out those drawings before you make the NWC is a good idea, but let's just have a look and we can clean it up once it comes in. So all we want is the surface out of that. So I can shift select all the stuff that's not part of the surface, that's the corridor and all sorts of stuff in the selection tree. Have those selected, right click, and then we can go and hide those from the NavisWorks model. So you see though, my machine is going a little slowly this afternoon, but okay. Yep, so you can see those things disappeared in the background. We do have a couple of surfaces there still, which you don't really want, like this one from InfraWorks, so we can hide those as well. There we go. So we only have our datum surface and combined ground surface there, which is what we want to use construction for. Surface. We can actually override the color too. I'd like to have that as green like the other surfaces. Okay, so we've got our construction 4 surface in there. What we also want to bring in is our solids from our corridor, similar to what's been done for this other corridor. So we go and append another file onto there, and this is the solids NWC, similar to what I was going to produce, except locked up. Okay, so this one's up in here. You can see some coloured roadway. The curbs have been made a yellow colour, but we're ready to go. Okay. All right. So what we need to do is then come down and have a look at the timelining of these particular parts of the works. So in the timeliner down the bottom here, which is, as you can see, it's got a Gantt chart on the right, the schedules for all those different components of what is being done by these guys on site already. We want to add in our stuff. So I want to replace their final surface with our final surface. It's construction surface 3 here. There's their one. Let me just scroll that across a bit. All right, construction surface 3, explicit selection there. I want to replace that with our construction surface 4, so I can just right click on it and go clear what's currently attached to that item, clear attachment. I can then select from the selection tree our surface we just exported from Civil 3D, that one. You can see it highlights on the screen there, and I right click on that cell and go append current selection, and it's going to add it to that. So replace their surface with our one, which has our datum surface included in it. So that being done, we can then, we actually need to just change the date a little bit, the finish time on that one. Let's run it up to 18th the 10th. This is actually scheduled still back in 2012, as you can see, but that's when I first made this model. We'll run with that. Okay, we need 2 more items to look at how we're going to schedule our new piece of road. So here's our solids NWC, and we've got it broken up into regions, as you can see here, which is why I named that particular way. So go to the bottom of our Gantt chart down here and add in some new items. So pick that line, add task, and this first one we'll call will be the majority of the road, so let's just call it majority. We could break it down into as many components as we had solids if we wanted to, but we're running a bit short of time, a little bit right on time at the moment. Majority, we just I've about 5 more minutes we'll have this done. And the other task will be intersection. And try and spell it right. Okay, so majority of the road we can actually select from the selection tree here. So we can select all of that region, and you can see it highlights in blue in the background when we do it. All of region 0 to 161, plus the region 206. So I'll hold down the control key here and just pick all the other bits of that second region. So it's a majority of the road excluding the little region you made for the intersection. Those we want to add to that line, sorry, majority line, which is this one here. So right click on there and go append the current selection. We can then select our components for the intersection area. Can't see them highlight there underneath that surface, but they are picked, and we can right click for those and append it to that cert. Okay, they're both construction tasks, so we set those as construction. And we give it the dates for when we're going to actually be doing them. So let's go for 15th to the 7th, 12, 2012 till 7th to the 8th, 2012. 2012, cool. And for the intersection part, so it doesn't clash with these guys' work, or hopefully, we'll find out in a moment. 30th of the 7th, 12. And 15th of the 8th, 12. Sorry, 2012. Better? Cool. All right, so we've now got those timelined into the Gantt chart down here along with everything else. Hit the simulate button, remove that, and we'll run through the process. So as I said before, you can actually scroll through this yourself. So they're starting to build their little road down the side here, getting that going. And then we're just about ready to start on site ourselves, so we start building the external parts of the work. I know what I haven't done. Haven't quite got the correct ground surface there. Let me go and change that because it's a little difficult to see. So quickly, oh, that's a shame. Let me see if I can quickly do that. No, that's going to take a while to do, and we're running out of time. Let me just give you a pre-cooked one. Sorry about that. I've been intending not to do any pre-cooked stuff here, but it's all the steps in the process. I've just stuffed up and brought in the wrong surface there to relate to that. To relate to the solids we're using. So it should be this one. Apologies for that. But you will see it working properly. Yeah, here we go. So if we go to the Simulate tab here now, exactly the same model. I've just got that ground surface correct in this one. So I'm going through there, starting the construction work. Hopefully you can see that changing on screen. I won't try not to go through too quickly. Scrolling through the Gantt chart. And then as they're getting close to finishing the construction of their pavement material, and start working down the other end of the site, and over here we can start constructing our piece of road. So we cut our datum surface down into there, which is why we swap those surfaces, and start building the pavement layers at either end away from where they're currently working. They start working, they're starting putting the sealing layers or asphalt layers on their bit of roads. You can see them highlighting red and appearing slowly with the little trucks appearing and disappearing. And at that stage we can start, okay, they're out of the way, we can start building the intersection and joining into what they've done. And by the end, we've now finished the extents and we're just finishing off the intersection, and the intersection gets complete once we get to the end. There we go. So again, we didn't make a proper intersection in here for the design in Civil 3D. You would, of course, but for the purpose of this exercise, the process is exactly the same. So, real quick run through at the design steps involved. Basically, through InfraWorks, Civil 3D to NavisWorks. There's a mass of other stuff you could do, but showing you the process of trying not to do any pre-cooked, although unfortunately we had to do it at the end. Demos, those are the actual push-button processes you're actually going to be using to make it work. Righto, so that brings me to the end. I think I've been having a quick look at the questions as we've been going through. It looks like they've all been answered as we went through, which is good. So just as a reminder, if you guys get what they call a CSAT survey from Autodesk, asking you what you think of your current reseller, if you are going to reply to that, only scores above 9 or 10 are indicating a positive experience. 7 or 8 are considered neutral, and if you put anything other than a 7, they consider it a negative feedback. So yeah, just be aware of that if you do get those. Thank you very much for tuning in this afternoon. Hopefully we've been able to show you a little bit of the process of the way things work or are designed to work in the infrastructure design suite. Get out there, start using it. The more you use it, the more you figure out new and inventive ways that it can actually be used, and it's going to benefit you. So thank you very much for tuning in this afternoon, and hopefully we'll see you at the next one of these demonstrations later on in the coming weeks. Thanks very much.